Yeah, like I was saying, my mom worked for this small motel restaurant just outside of the Dells, and became good friends with the owners, and I would go to work with her all the time. So the owners had some friends from Chicago that would come up and um, stay at their motel, and they were there all the time. So after work, when my mom was done working, they would all hang out. There was like a fire pit there, and they would all hang out.
Party time, right?
Party time, have drinks, hang out. And I mean, he was, their family, he was a deacon in the Catholic Church in Chicago. They had a pretty good sized family, and they had money. I think they had like 5 kids together.
Typical for, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, the family at first had started taking an interest in asking, I'm sure it was him to begin with, but if they could take me with them to different things in the Dells.
Okay.
Go on the boats or whatever they had going on there.
So this would have been back like in the 80s then?
Yeah,
Okay.
Early 80s. Late 70s.
So that's when the Dells was the Dells, where it closed down in the winter time and yeah, okay, all right.
But yeah, it was probably 77.
Okay.
And so and they would take me camping. It kind of started there, where they always camped at Devil's Lake.
Okay.
And so the one time they came, and it was just him and his son, and they still wanted to take me camping, which at that time my mom, the less that she had to worry about me, the better.
No red flags for her.
Yeah, she apparently not. She said there was, but she didn't. I don't know. She said she suspected, but she never said or did anything. And so we stayed at Devil's Lake a few times where it was just him. I can remember it being just him and me in a tent.
Oh, wow.
And things happening. And
so there was multiple.
Oh, it was multiple, because the story kind of gets even more. So there came a point in time, when he wasn't around, he was sending money and gifts and
Grooming.
like that in the mail. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
To you, to your parents?
Yeah. To me.
To you personally, okay.
And then he asked if he could take me back to Chicago. So, for a week or whatever. So she agreed to that. And I went back to Chicago with
how were you at that time? I mean, all this is going on. I mean, what was going in your head?
I think for me, any attention that I was getting that was positive
made you feel special.
Made me feel special.
Right.
And made me feel like I meant something. Because, at the time, my mom didn't really want to spend time with me. It wasn't, if I was out of her hair, that was what was best.
She was emotionally unavailable.
Very much so, because my stepdad that she was married to at the time was an alcoholic.
Gotcha.
So she had her own things going on. And I had a baby brother, she had a son with my stepdad.
Okay.
And so, and she'd always said, and she always had, I don't know why she would say this, but that Kurt saved her life, because she was ready to kill herself back then at that time.
So how horrible for you that...
it's like, okay. But...
Wow.
Anyway, I ended up going to Chicago with him and his family, his wife, and staying there. And after, I can remember him coming in the room that I was staying in, and how his wife didn't know,
I was just going to ask that,
And he would have people over. I can remember having dinners there, and they would have me make drinks, like martinis and things like that. They were teaching me how to make those things at like 8 years old.
And this is Chicago, proper Chicago, or one of the suburbs? I'm just curious.
I'm not sure it was a suburb.
Okay. Okay.
So, and what they lived in was like, it was a house, but they're the ones that are like attached to each other.
Yep. Townhouse.
Yeah, townhouse. But after about the third or fourth day, he left and he went to, I don't know if he was going to the church or something, and so I was alone with his wife.
Okay.
And I pretty much had a meltdown. You know, I had it. And it brought back things that I had just totally forgotten, blocked out.
That was a few years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was quite a few. It was probably about 7 years ago.
Okay.
But I really had a hard time dealing with what was going on in my own head.
Triggers.
Yeah, it was definitely, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And I confronted my mom on it. Because then she asked, because I was dealing with, you know, severe depression and I was really mentally unstable. I even spent time in the mental hospital. And then she asked me, she's like, well, did anybody ever do anything to you? And one thing that she won't still accept is my grandfather was really touchy-feely back then.
And this was prior
to that.
Okay.
And I spent all sorts of time with my grandparents because she didn't, you know, that's just where I was put. I was with my grandparents. And my grandpa spent extra time with me. You know, I was basically the golden grandchild, you know.
So you learned early to accept that type of attention then.
I did.
Yeah.
Because I thought that was, you know,
love.
I was being treated special. And it never went, you know, it never went to sexual intercourse, but my grandfather was very, kiss me inappropriately and touch my chest.
Okay.
And, you know, when he would give me a hug and a kiss, it was, you know, touching my butt.
Gotcha.
It was that kind of thing. So I tried talking about that, and she just would not accept that. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. That never happened.
Right.
And then I also talked about this Jack, was his name, from Chicago. Well, yeah, I suspected that. He kept sending gifts, and I just started throwing them away.
Did you ask her why she never did anything?
Yeah, I did, and she just did not have an answer. I said, you suspected it, and you never asked me.
Wow.
You never asked me if anything happened. You know, I never got to, you know, talk about it. And it was just always, as long as I was out of your hair, it didn't matter, you know, which was really painful.
Right.
And she denies that as well, but it's, when I finally had to process all that information, you know, after my daughter, I had to get through it before I could even help her. And I couldn't understand that my mother could allow something like that to happen and not do anything about it or have any kind of reaction. Right. When I found out that this happened with Nisha,
so it ripped your heart out.
It did. My other daughter was 3 at the time, and she's the one that basically told me. And I think it really affected me that I know how it felt to me having that happen to my child. So why did my mother not have the same reaction or feeling to something happening to her child?
Left a hole in you.
It definitely did, yeah.
What?
It was,
that had to be hell. Going through that whole process with your daughter, wondering why nobody protected you when you were that little girl.
Yeah, I really struggled. I really had a hard time. And I had about 3 different stays at the hospital because of where my mind was at.
Oh, I could imagine.
So, and I got a really good look at what the mental health system is like.
Not that pleasant, is it?
No.
Yeah.
It's really frustrating that you go somewhere you want help and you're put into a situation that's more like being put into jail.
Right.
You know, and that's basically what, I understand they have to keep you safe, but there's a difference between that and treating someone like they're a prisoner.
When you need
or
compassion.
A criminal, huh?
When you need compassion.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the UW mental health system is good.
Okay.
You know, that is one that I would definitely recommend. The atmosphere isn't like a jail, you know.
Right.
It's comfortable, and they're very compassionate, and you have counseling sessions, group sessions, and
how did it feel after all those years carrying the secret and then having that breakdown, and now you're in a mental health facility sharing with strangers? What was that like for you?
It was really difficult. You know, they it made you wonder, you know, I really struggled because at the time, if my mother didn't care at the time what had happened, then why would
anybody
these
else
people care?
Right.
You know, so that was something that was really hard for me. That, you know, I self-criticized that it was all my fault and I was the awful person, and, you know, so it was really hard to get that changed around to understand that none of it was my fault. You know, it took time.
Oh, yeah.
It definitely took time to be able to open up to someone, but I finally found the right counselor.
That's good.
That made me.
That's good. That's key.
It definitely was. Because I think a lot of times in the mental health system, they see so many people, you know, all the time. And it's not, it's almost like they're just going through the motions of,
right.
You know,
right.
You have to go to a group session and it's all just kind of generic.
A, B, C, D, yeah.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. I think it was just...
Same, I think, can be said for advocacy. With some of the advocacy organizations that women end up going to.
Yeah.
It gets so routine that they forget there's a human sitting in front of them.
Yeah, it just really wasn't very... And it doesn't make you feel like you want to open up then.
Right.
So I don't think that a lot of people are getting the help that they need.
I agree.
You know, because it's just not personal, or not, like you said, it's just a generic...
Band-Aid.
Yep. Definitely is. But yeah, the UW was very good.
Okay.
At helping me get through
so
it.
You and your daughter went through healing at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely did.
How great for her, though.
Yeah.
That you were there and you could understand. Okay, so you've told the story, and you've told me a lot off camera, too. And as you said, initially you've only told a few people, safe people, in your life. Correct?
Yes.
And that took many years to even do that.
Yeah.
And so now we are, 5, 6, 7, 8 years after that.
Yeah.
And now you've told me.
It's been about 8, yeah.
Who's going to tell the world.
Yes.
About this small town girl whose mother has a pretty significant job in our county.
Yeah.
And is known. How does that make you feel? I mean, because that's one thing a lot of people I don't think understand is the difference when you live in a rural community. One, the lack of resources that we have.
Yeah.
The little resources that we do have are often run by people who think they know our stories when they actually don't.
Right. It's easy to think that you know somebody and you don't know the...
Right. So knowing all of that, how do you feel now of telling your story?
I guess a part of me feels a big relief, I think, and a little bit more empowered.
Okay.
I mean, it feels good to get it out.
Right.
It's a good step in. You know, you think that you are healing, and it's been so many years, and I have talked to a few people, and so you think that you're good. But then, you know, something just
Pops
comes
up.
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it definitely is going to help to get it out there.
Yeah, I think so too. I think healing's a life journey.
Yeah.
I really do. I don't know what the word healed means, okay, when it comes to this type of emotional
Yeah.
baggage that we carry.
I think it's always there. Part of it's always going to be there.
But I think we learn how to appreciate it and honor what we went through.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is understanding that it's not your fault.
Right.
And you didn't do anything to
Right.
cause it. And I think that's the biggest thing. And not, you know, I can't point blame at anybody but him.
Correct.
You know, I really can't. Even, you know, obviously my mother was going through things of her own that I
Correct.
don't know. And she may not have reacted the way maybe I felt a parent should react to it, but she was going through her own issues at the time.
Doing the best she could at the time.
Yep. So the only one to blame is him.
Right.
You know, you can't blame anybody else. He took advantage of a situation, and yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
Was it as hard as you thought it was going to be?
No, I don't think it was actually.
Good.
I think it was a lot easier once I got going.
And it's empowering to, you know,
Very empowering.
this is who I am, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't define me, but it's what made me who I am sitting in front of you today.
And I think I'm pretty proud of the mother that I am.
You should
and
be.
my grandparent that I am. And
You
I
should
learned
be.
a lot of things that I don't want my children and
Right.
grandchildren to feel.
And they're going to carry that on. And each
That's
generation will get better
Yeah,
instead of that
that's
cycle, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I could see it. You know, there obviously was a cycle there.
Right.
So I'm glad to break it.
Well, congratulations. And thank you for telling your story.